Ladies and gentlemen, our Master of Ceremonies for the evening, Bob Schieffer.
Hi, everybody. Give you a chance to sit down here. And as you're doing that, could I ask that maybe we give David K. North another round of applause? Isn't that something? David is a member of the Washington Performing Arts men's and women's choir. And we're so happy to have him here. Tonight, the LBJ Foundation is going to present its highest award, the Liberty and Justice for All Award, to two remarkable public servants. The chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Carl Levin, and the longest-serving member of the House, the great John Dingell. Two men who have mastered the art of getting things done. Sort of a lost art, some people around here would say. I'm going to give everyone a chance to get seated, because I know we all want to hear what this program tonight is all about. How are we doing here in the middle of the room? Are we getting this done? Folks, if we could kind of try to be seated here, and we'll try to get everybody home before breakfast, but we do have to get started. These two legislators that we're, Chuck, be seated, if you would. Thank you. Good to see you. These two legislators that we honor tonight, we honor in the name of Lyndon Johnson, who came from the hard-scrabble part of the hill country of Texas to become first a congressman, then a senator, and then a president whose knowledge and skill caused Washington to become a place where more legislation was passed than at any time since the New Deal. It was also some of the most significant and far-reaching legislation in the history of America. And as we look back on it tonight, we wonder at the Johnson years, how did he do it? How was he able to pass the Great Society programs? Above all, how was he able to pass two civil rights bills when his own party mounted the main opposition? He was able to do it because he understood Washington in a way that few in history have understood it. I was talking just by chance today to one of his key aides during those days, Joe Califano, who reminded me that when Johnson decided to pass that first civil rights bill, the first thing he did was to tell his people, you make sure Everett Dirksen writes the bill. And then he went on to tell his aides, and when he gets it written, you make sure it has in it all the things we want in it. Lyndon Johnson knew how Washington worked and how to make it work. On 3 separate occasions, when there were labor disputes in the country, serious labor disputes, Johnson called on Wayne Morse, the senator from Oregon, who had wanted to impeach him over Vietnam, to help him solve those labor disputes. And Morse successfully did that. Lyndon Johnson was never afraid to ask those who opposed him on one issue to help him on another issue, and time and again, he was successful. When Wayne Morse won a national prize for cattle breeding, Johnson called him and said, "Wayne, I wish you knew as much about foreign policy as you do about bulls." And you know, Wayne Morse thanked him for that. That was Lyndon Johnson. That is who we remember tonight as we honor 2 great legislators, Carl Levin and John Dingell, who is safe to say Lyndon Johnson would have understood and appreciated. Here to begin our program tonight is someone who was at Lyndon Johnson's side throughout his presidency, who has played a key role at the LBJ Library over the years to help us understand and keep the Johnson legacy, the chairman of the LBJ Foundation, my good friend, Larry Temple. Larry.
Thank you. On behalf of the trustees of the LBJ Foundation, including Linda Robb and Lucy Baines Johnson, I want to thank everybody for being present here tonight. We appreciate your participation. I also want to acknowledge and thank the sponsors for the evening and the host committee for this event. And the names have been rotating up here, and you will see them during the evening. Lyndon Johnson described his philosophy of government as a belief that government should make possible for all of its citizens to experience a better, more secure, and more rewarding life. It was this belief, this philosophy, based on what he called memories of struggle and hope buried deep in my mind and part of my heritage, that led him to propose and shepherd through Congress the programs known as the Great Society, whose sweeping reforms in civil rights, education, the environment, poverty, and a host of others that over the years transformed American life. The LBJ Foundation created the LBJ Liberty and Justice for All Award to recognize and honor individuals who in their own way have illuminated some aspect of the Great Society. The initial award, highlighting civil rights, was given to that civil rights lion, Congressman John Lewis. Last year, we gave the award to President George H.W. Bush, who opened the doors wider for opportunity for citizens with disabilities. Tonight, as Bob said, we honor 2 stalwarts of the United States Congress whose service demonstrates how dreams can be translated into reality, Congressman John Dingell and Senator Carl Levin. I believe that President Johnson, whose philosophy of government was rooted in his faith in the legislative process, would share our pride in this election. Now it is my pleasure to turn this stage over to former Texas Speaker of the House, former Texas Lieutenant Governor, and Vice Chairman of the LBJ Foundation, my friend Ben Barnes.
Thank you very much, Larry Temple, not only for that introduction, but thank you for the leadership that you provide for the LBJ Library and Foundation. It's a great honor to be here tonight. This is a special night in the history of the Johnson Public Policy School and the library, because it is this year that we are announcing a dream that Lyndon Johnson had some 40 years ago, and that was to have a branch or a campus or for the LBJ School of Public Policy to be part of the political scene in Washington. Your presence here tonight and the money that's being raised is the first money that's going in to help us establish a public policy school here in Washington, where our students can be a part of the policy-making procedures and processes of our federal government. As I said, a dream that President Johnson always wanted. So thank you for giving your dollars and being here tonight. We appreciate that very much. Now I have the honor of recognizing a very distinguished group of people here that serve our country so well, the members of the United States House and the United States Senate. And I'll ask the members of the House to please stand. If you could hold your applause till we have all of them standing and can give them appropriate recognition. Representative Lloyd Doggett, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Representative Jim Costa, Representative Sandy Levin, the brother of Senator Levin that we honor, Representative-elect Debbie Dingell, the wife of John Dingell, Representative Joaquin Castro, Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson, Representative Gene Green. I believe that's all. I may have missed some. They were getting late. But anyway, let's recognize and appreciate the members of Congress being here. The members of the Senate have been voting tonight, as you all know, and I may have missed some that have gotten in late. But first, I want to introduce a great friend of the Johnson Library, Senator Harkins from Idaho. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for being here very much. We have another great friend of our library, Senator Bill Nelson. Bill, where are you, Senator Nelson? Thank you very much. And there's another senator here that's going to participate, Jack Reed, but he'll be introduced later. It is now a special honor, and it's another milestone in the life of the University of Texas system that an event is happening this month or this fall that I think is a great chapter yet to be written in the history of the University of Texas system, because it is my pleasure to present to you a person who is already an American hero. Admiral Bill McRaven has served our country for 29 years. The 69,000 troops he commanded as commander of the U.S. Special Forces throughout this world with great leadership skills and preserving and protecting our troops and our country. Now, it's my great honor to present to you not Admiral Bill McRaven, but the next Chancellor of the University of Texas system, Chancellor McRaven. Chancellor.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, and to all the distinguished guests that we have here tonight, Congressman, Senators, great to have you here for this occasion. I am really honored to be here tonight to celebrate the tremendous public service of Congressman John Dingell and Senator Carl Levin. I can think of no two people who more rightfully deserve this recognition and who truly embody LBJ's determination to ensure fairness and equality for all Americans. Gentlemen, your vision and your leadership are the qualities that the LBJ School Washington Center wants to instill in a new generation of public servants. The center's most noble challenge is to find and develop the next John Dingell and the next Carl Levin, and I know we are up to the challenge. On a personal note, for Senator Levin, it is particularly gratifying for me to be up here behind the podium and not at a long table testifying before the Senate Armed Services Committee. Not that I didn't enjoy that, but no, not really. I also want to recognize Bob Hutchings, Dean of the LBJ School of Public Affairs, and his colleagues for pursuing their vision to establish an LBJ presence in the nation's capital. Let's give Bob a big round of applause. Those of us who have spent a lifetime watching policy get made know that you can't do it from afar. You have to be where the action is. You have to see it. You have to breathe it, grasp it, wrestle with it, and then, and only then, can you expect to come away with an understanding of how policy is made. That is why establishing the LBJ School Washington Center is so very important. The constant engagement with Washington's leaders will be an invaluable experience for all those involved. The mission of the LBJ Washington Center is to educate a new generation of public servants to be agents of change, to do the hard work, to make the difficult decisions, and above all, to be leaders for both Texas and the nation. And so, as the next chancellor of the University of Texas System, I could not be more excited. Thank you, Dean Hutchings, and all of those who have supported this grand undertaking, especially the members of the Center's founding committee and the members of the Texas Honorary Host Committee and the LBJ Foundation. I also want to congratulate Tom O'Donnell, the new director of the LBJ School Washington Center. Tom, I envy you. What a great opportunity to start something new and see it grow into a nationally recognized center of excellence. And you should know that you will have my full support when I assume the role of chancellor in January. Finally, I can't leave the podium tonight without acknowledging Linda Robb and Lucy Baines Johnson. When I was growing up in San Antonio, your father was Texas. He was big and bold, and he challenged everyone around him to be better. He worked tirelessly for the people of Texas and then took that energy, that dedication, and that vision to Washington, and he changed the world. And your mother was everything we expect Texas women to be: gracious, caring, strong, and loyal. As a state, we were truly blessed to have your parents guiding our future and the future of America. If they were alive today, I think they would be very pleased to see the school, named in your father's honor, extend its influence from Austin to Washington, D.C. And in your father's words at the LBJ School dedication, to produce thinkers and doers, people who dream of progress and will try to turn those dreams into achievements. Thank you very much for allowing me to join you on this very special evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Adam. Before we, thank you so much. And before we begin our dinner, I have a letter here from the Secretary of Defense that I'd like to read. It says, on behalf of the Department of Defense, I extend my greetings to all those gathered for the third presentation of the LBJ Liberty and Justice for All Award. This award honors those who personify President Lyndon B. Johnson's vision of a nation where every citizen can share in the benefits and full blessings of American life. It is especially fitting that this award is being presented to my friends and former colleagues, Senator Carl Levin and Congressman John Dingell, two selfless, exemplary American leaders who have been pillars of our legislative system through decades of the country's history. Their distinguished service are models of responsible elected representative service. I cannot think of two more worthy individuals to honor with this recognition than Carl Levin and John Dingell. The department and the citizens of our nation owe them great appreciation for their service and their commitment to our country. Congratulations to them and their families, and best wishes to all for a wonderful evening. Sincerely, Chuck Hagel. All right, let's enjoy dinner, and we'll be back with the awards. Congressman John Lewis was awarded the inaugural LBJ Liberty and Justice for All Award, and has often been described as one of the most courageous people the civil rights movement ever produced. The miracle is that John Lewis survived the civil rights movement. He was beaten more than 30 times, leading freedom rides, sit-ins, He has dedicated his life to building what he calls the beloved American community. Anytime you think you're incapable of doing something, we should all really think of John Lewis and what he has managed to accomplish. He was the son of a sharecropper from Troy, Alabama. He has risen to the top of every effort he has made, from college to the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma and leading the reenactment of the march annually, to serving President Carter, to being a successful writer, to being a member of Congress from Georgia. His life is simply incredible, and he continues to add to the successes as he leads the annual reenactment of the march. When Lyndon Johnson signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, John Lewis was one of those who had been invited to attend the ceremony, and when he went to shake hands with the president, he said, "Thank you, Mr. President, but there's still a lot to do." John Lewis told me he looked at him and said, "John, then go out there and make me do it." And of course, John Lewis did through demonstrations. Johnson was able to pass another civil rights bill the next year. He understood that there must be consensus in the country when you embark on a monumental act like that. I know that all of us would like to be with John Lewis when he makes his next anniversary march, but tonight he is here with us to remind us of our history and to present the LBJ Liberty and Justice Award to his colleague, Congressman John Dingell. John Lewis.
Thank you, Bob, for those kind words of introduction. I must tell you that I'm delighted, very happy, and very pleased to be here to honor my colleague, my friend, and my brother, the longest-serving member of Congress and a representative of Michigan 12th Congressional District, John Dingell. If it hadn't been for Lyndon Johnson, what he did and what he said, I wouldn't be standing here tonight to pay tribute to John Dingell as a member of Congress. Now, I had heard of Congressman John Dingell long before I came to the House of Representatives. I knew that he had followed in his father's footsteps on his path to public service, that he was one of the youngest members of Congress at the time. But most important, I heard that he would stand up, that he would speak up, that he would find a way to get in the way, a way to get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. He spoke up for civil rights, but he was also known as an unbelievable chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee. He defended people's right to know what is in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. He was there when President Johnson united with Congress to pass landmark legislation that helped create a teeming middle class in America. He stood up on the front line for Medicare and Medicaid. He is the only member of Congress still serving today who voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that vote almost cost him his election. He used his energy his skills to help win passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the Higher Education Act, the Model City Act, and the Truth in Lending Act. So we come here tonight to salute a man, a strong man, a tall man, a man who stood with Lyndon Johnson, because John Dingell is the embodiment of a time when legislators did not hesitate to use the power of the federal government for good for all of the people. I don't think it was an accident that 12 days before John Dingell was elected in 1955, Rosa Parks kept her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. It was like President Johnson saying, history and fate coming together in a single place. And that's what happened with John Dingell and Rosa Parks. He came to Congress at the beginning of a movement that started in the streets, the homes, and offices of Alabama and swept throughout our country. He inspired a generation of young legislators to stand up, to speak out. So John Dingell became a champion of the people of Michigan and a champion of the people of America, who brought honor and dignity to the work of public service. Now tonight, Mr. Dingell, my friend, my brother, we salute you. Let us take a look at the video to see what his friend and colleague had to say about the pride of John Dingell.
This is a great national treasure, or rather great personal treasure. It is the gavel I used when I gavelled through Medicare.
For nearly 60 years, John Dingell has led the fight for some of our nation's most important legislation.
Healthcare, I'm very proud of that. Medicare, protecting Social Security, conservation legislation.
Clean air, clean water. He really believed that we have a right to know what is in the air we breathe, what is in the water we drink, what is in the food we eat.
Of the more than 25,000 votes that he has cast, John Dingell says he's most proud of 2 votes made during the height of the Civil Rights Movement.
For a member of the United States House of Representatives, in 1964, it took only raw courage to cast a vote in support of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
And he, to this day, said he would gladly have lost that seat to have done what was right, to make all human beings equal in this country.
He was one of the right-hand people to President Lyndon Baines Johnson to make that bold step, those bold steps forward for America. And of course, without the Civil Rights Act and without the Voting Rights Act, I would not have the opportunity to serve in this body.
John Dingell was elected to Congress in 1955 to fill the seat left vacant after his father's death.
Dad was a tremendous influence on my life. He was author of much of Social Security. Healthcare was one of his major causes, and it was the one thing that constantly frustrated him.
Building on his father's legacy, John Dingell was determined to get a health care bill passed.
At the beginning of every session, when the Congress came into session, I would introduce the bill. And there was some ho-hum, here he's at it again. But it really, I could always tell that there was a tremendous desire to address this problem and a tremendous need for a resolution to the difficulty.
There's no one with any more commitment to make sure that every person had access to health care.
He's got a fight and determination and grit in him that is just something I love and admire.
I'm Polish, we don't give up.
Today is a day that's going to rank with the day we passed the Civil Rights Bill in 1964.
I don't jump up in the air and shout anymore, but there was a great happiness and a great quiet satisfaction There was a satisfaction I was doing something that was right, in the public interest. There was a satisfaction I was doing something that would please my dad. I was doing something that made it clear that it would take care of the health of the American people.
John Dingell has always known what is right and has always fought for what was right.
The record is clear. He absolutely has been a giant for the people and a giant for justice.
And that, by the way, is a wonderful thing about this job. You help people, and you have the capacity to make things better.
Our country, our people, we all are indebted to him. No one in recent years has contributed more than John Dingell for the benefit of the American people.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable John Dingell, accompanied by Linda Robb and Lucy Johnson.
Congressman, it is our honor and our joy to present this award to you. You are indeed the hope that Lyndon Johnson had for America, and you have delivered in every way that we could ever dream for, and that includes big.
Absolutely, but we're not going to let you carry this right now. We're going to put it over here on the side.
You've toted enough, Congressman. You don't have to tote this big award, but boy, do you have our lasting admiration and appreciation, because no one could have fought the fight better or longer than you.
Great. All right, we don't have to have, it's too heavy for any of us to tote. We'll get that back for just a second. There you go.
I got him.
All right, okay. Got it?
Good evening, everybody. I hope all of you, my friends, will be seated. These speeches go much faster when everybody gets to sit down.
Yes.
You know, there's no one from whose hands I would rather receive this award than my beloved friend, John. You are an example of all that is good in this country, and I am honored beyond any charge what it is you do and have done, and what you are still going to do. And I rejoice that you will be staying around the Congress when I have to leave. I'm leaving with you, by the way, one of the most important things and people in my life. She's a small, sawed-off blonde, and she does no end of good at every opportunity. And I'm proud that she is the wife of my happiness and the heart that goes with it. Deborah, thank you. I'm also particularly proud to receive this award from Lucy and Linda and from all of the LBJ Foundation for this magnificent event. We don't do these things because they are important. We do them because they're good and because they are right. We call these things public goods, but that is far less than what they are. I'm honored to call all of you here my friends, my brothers, especially those who have spilled blood in the cause of seeing to it that justice and social justice was done. In all of my years in Congress, I look back on the time during President Johnson's administration with much admiration. We accomplished a great fight, fought for equality, fought for the American people, fought for things like the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, Medicare. These were some of the most important votes I cast in my 6 decades in the Congress. But it must be noted that no piece of legislation was as important as the Voting Rights Act, because it saw to it that Americans began to recognize that we are one race, one people, and that God has given us something very special, something for which we cannot properly thank him. Most of us came here for reasons other than our own wishes, but these reasons are good, and they brought us a population that is rich in goodness and in strength and in quality of its sentiment and hopes for the future of this nation. I am proud to receive this honor and to receive the honor that bears the name of Lyndon Johnson today. He was perhaps the greatest legislator that I ever knew, who understood how to legislate to get things done. He wasn't afraid to do the things that need to be done in the way they have to be done. We're so fortunate that when we had the particular timing and event, that we had Lyndon Johnson there, just like we had Abraham Lincoln at a similar time, or that we had President, the other great presidents, like President Washington. These are the men who gave us the things that are so important to us. We have much left to do, to protect, to share, and much left to see to it that we do this in a way which shows respect and dignity and goodness for all of us. God bless you all. God bless this gathering. God bless the United States. And God bless us each and every one.
I think it's important to say You were there when your country and your president needed you, and you never let any of us down. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, from generations of Johnsons who know that America is a better place because you sought to serve and you always delivered.
God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Jack Reed is a graduate of West Point. He was Army Ranger, he was a paratrooper after his years in the Army, was elected to the Rhode Island State Senate. He later served as a congressman from Rhode Island, now in his third term as a member of the United States Senate. He is also a ranking member of the Armed Services and the Appropriations Committees, and as such has become one of the most influential members of the Senate. He's part of that rare caucus of those who actually have the ability to work across the aisle. I would just say one other thing about Senator Reed. He had, before I knew him, the good judgment to hire a recent graduate of the LBJ School at the University of Texas, whose name was Steve Eichenhauer, who would go on to become my son-in-law and the father of two of my grandchildren. I can think of no better person to introduce our next honoree than Senator Jack Reed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you, Bob, for that kind introduction and for your extraordinary career as our most respected journalist. Thank you. Please. This evening, we honor two exemplary public servants, John Dingell and Carl Levin, as we honor the legacy and service of another extraordinary American, Lyndon Baines Johnson. I must also recognize another great American, John Lewis, who is here tonight and who presented Chairman Dingell with his award. Please, again. And also another American hero, Admiral Bill McRaven. Thank you. Now, I know Carl Levin a little bit better than I knew LBJ. In fact, I was in President Johnson's presence just once. In the fall of 1964, he visited Providence, Rhode Island. I was a sophomore in high school, and we were given the afternoon off to join the huge crowd assembled in the center of Providence to greet his presidential motorcade. Even from a distance, and it was a distance, you could see LBJ towering over everyone, standing in the back seat of the open car, exuding energy and enthusiasm as the motorcade moved through a sea of cheering Rhode Islanders. Senator John O. Pastore, his colleague, was seated near him. Like me, even if Senator Pastore stood, it would have made no difference. He, like me, is a man of normal height. Well, Carl Levin can't be described as physically towering either. And exuberance is not the first word that comes to mind when you describe him. Yet he and Lyndon Johnson share a rare distinction. They are both masters of the Senate. Through great intellect, through exhausting mastery of details, through different but entirely authentic and compelling personalities, and through a profound respect for the Senate and their fellow senators, they both were leaders who made a profound difference. LBJ's Senate leadership pointed out to get anything done in the Senate, you must strive for principled compromise. That's a polite way of saying that all too often you have to beg people to do the obvious. But to get great things done, you have to create a common ground that did not previously exist. You have to build a bridge, not just negotiate the height of the railings. For 36 years, Carl Levin has built bridges that have made this nation stronger and fairer. For 18 of those years, he was either chairman or ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. The United States military, the most powerful and professional force the world has ever seen, has in countless ways been shaped because Carl Levin repeatedly helped to forge a new common ground. As the chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations of the Government Affairs Committee, he has pursued the powerful on behalf of the people. He has not only uncovered abuse, but he has sent a powerful message to increasingly discouraged American working men and women across this land that there is someone who will fight for them, who will fight for opportunity, who understands that the true measure of our country is not that those with much gets more, it's that everyone gets a chance. And in all these endeavors, he has had the unwavering love and support of Barbara and his family, and we salute them also tonight. Carl and I have traveled many times together. Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, Syria, Colombia. We were there to visit the commanders and local leaders and to thank our troops, especially to thank our troops. And in the faces of those troops, you saw the trust and respect that they felt, some to their own surprise, when they met the powerful chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee and discovered that he had traveled across the globe to listen to them and to work for them. Through those travels, indeed through every day in the Senate, I have come to love and admire this man. Archibald MacLeish, an American poet laureate, wrote an enduring poem to commemorate the fallen of all our wars. In it, the narrator speaks for all the young dead soldiers and reminds us all, senators and citizens alike, of our most solemn and fundamental obligation as Americans. They say, our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them. They say, whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this. They say, we leave you our deaths, give them their meaning. No one that I have ever met has done more to give true meaning to that sacrifice than my friend, the gentleman from Michigan, Carl Levin. I invite you now to watch a video tribute to Chairman Levin. Thank you.
When you put on the uniform of this country, you are not only protecting us physically, you are putting your life on the line for the values of this country. And one of the values of this country is diversity. It is one of the huge strengths that we have in this country.
I think equal opportunity is really kind of in our DNA. That sense of caring about others was something that came from our parents, and my brother Carl very much absorbed it. It became part of his personality.
The underlying motivation of Carl Levin is to ensure that every American, particularly every Marine, soldier, sailor, airman, has an equal shot at the advantages and beauty of our society.
Crimes against men and women because of their sexual orientation are up.
We amended the hate crimes law to add prohibitions against sexual orientation.
When you attack someone because of membership in a group, You are attacking this country itself. Back then, doing anything to end discrimination based on sexual orientation would be controversial enough, but to do it on the defense authorization bill was something which was doubly controversial.
He's a leader who's not afraid to take on the status quo. He's someone who truly believes in standing up for people who perhaps don't have a voice here in Washington.
We should end Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and we can and should do it in a way that honors our nation's values while making us more secure.
We wouldn't have repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell without Chairman Levin's leadership.
The military took the lead on this. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs came in front of us and just kind of blurted it out. That, hey, we've got to allow people in our military to be who they are.
No matter how I look at this issue, I cannot escape being troubled by the fact that we have in place a policy which forces young men and women to lie about who they are in order to defend their fellow citizens.
When Admiral Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, got up and said, "I believe Don't Ask, Don't Tell undermines the integrity of the whole military," I knew at that minute we would win. And it was because of Carl's leadership and his fearlessness that we held that hearing and that we created a national conversation about what we'd lost because of that policy.
No longer will our country be denied the service of thousands of patriotic Americans.
Ironically, I was not there when the bill was signed. The president even made reference. He said, "Where's Levin?" He knew where I was. I was on the floor of the Senate getting my defense authorization bill passed.
In this era of bitter partisanship and gridlock, Carl Levin has maintained the committee as an island of cooperation and bipartisanship.
One of the things which I like to hear the most from people is that they don't agree with me on something, but they think they can trust me to tell them what I really believe.
I hear so often at parades and other places, people saying, well, we didn't agree with everything Carl did, but we voted for him. And we voted for him because of his honesty, his integrity.
I not only have great respect for Carl Levin, I have great affection. And I will miss him very much here in the Senate because he has always stood up for the rights of the little person.
Michigan is a much better place because of Carl Levin. Our country, the United States, is a much better place because of Carl Levin.
So am I proud? To the core.
People ask me, am I leaving because I'm either tired of it or because I'm sick of the dissension and the fighting and the gridlock? My answer is no, not at all. I love it, and I'll love it right to the last day I'm here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Carl Levin, accompanied by Linda Robb and Lucy Johnson.
Jack, thank you for that extraordinary introduction. I felt for a long time when I leave here, I would want to leave the Armed Services Committee in very strong hands, and it will be in very strong hands with Jack as the Democratic leader and with John McCain, who will be the new chairman. Both of them together will maintain a tradition of bipartisanship, which has really been so important to this country and to the men and women who put on the uniform of this country and all of those who support them and their families. It's a double treat to be here tonight with John Dingell. John is part of a family that has been very, very close to the Levin family. He was actually a clerk for my uncle, who was a federal judge. And a couple of my and Sandy's uncle's grandchildren are here tonight, by the way, as well. But I got a bill that came over from the House of Representatives a few years ago, naming the courthouse in Detroit after my uncle, Theodore Levin. And of course, my family back home and all my cousins and Sandy's cousins said, hey, great going, you pulled it off for the Levin family. And the truth of the matter is, I was shocked when the bill came over. I had no idea what was going on. John Dingell had pulled off another important feat in this case. He said he's leaving behind his bride to carry on the Dingell tradition, and all I can say is that Barb and I, when we leave, we're leaving the brains, the political brains, and many other kinds of brains of the Levin family. My brother Sandy, who's been in the House of Representatives for 32 years. That's my lifelong mentor and best buddy. He was there when I was born. He doesn't want to admit it. People think he looks younger than I do, but he was there. And if you saw that little red blotch on my eye when we were standing in front of that car, that was the only time in my life that he slugged me. It was right then on that photograph. To be given an honor in the name of LBJ is truly awe-inspiring. To stand with his daughters is quite an amazing feeling, I must tell you. Because as a budding young politician in the civil rights movement, when I was the attorney for the Michigan Civil Rights Commission when it first came into existence, LBJ was my inspiration, given the challenges and the courage that it took to do what he did for civil rights in this country. Anybody that isn't inspired by that record and by LBJ and what he did, frankly, ought to be ashamed of themselves. LBJ was a giant, not just to civil rights, but for economic opportunity for the little guy. Never forget where he came from, and an inspiration to all of us. I just want to add a few more words because of LBJ's Great Society speech. It was given at the University of Michigan. Barb, by the way, my bride of 53 years, did I get it right this time? Is a Wolverine. She is a graduate of the University of Michigan. But LBJ, when he came to the University of Michigan and gave his Great Society speech, and by the way, the university is in John's district and Debbie's district to be in Ann Arbor. He described, LBJ did, the Great Society this way. He said, it's a place where the city of man serves not only the needs of the body and the demands of commerce, but the desire for beauty and the hunger for community. The idea of community is central to understanding LBJ's vision and accomplishments. Extraordinarily sensitive to barriers of race and inequality and isolation, LBJ's vision was of an America whose spirit of innovation and whose hunger for progress drove not just our economy, but our quest for inclusion. The Great Society was a vision of active government, seeking to create a stronger American community, one less fractured by differences of race and disparities of income, education, and opportunity. And of course, LBJ just didn't talk about these issues. He believed that government could and should act upon them. He once told an aide that he never thought that he would have the power to affect the changes that America needed. But now that he had it, he said, I'm going to use it. And use it he did, as did FDR with the New Deal. And these visionaries teach us that despite our weaknesses and our flaws and divisions, that we can use the power that our people have conferred upon us to comfort the afflicted, to heal divisions, and to broaden opportunities. President Johnson knew that not all would heed his call. He told the graduates that day in Michigan, quote, "There are those timid souls who say this battle cannot be won, and that we are condemned to a soulless wealth. I do not agree," he said. "We have the power to shape the civilization that we want." His ideal is every bit as much contested today as it was then, but it is also every bit as necessary. Because today we see educational opportunity threatened, we see any economic inequality that is by some measures worse and more staggering than some of the inequality that drove LBJ to act. There are those who believe that we're powerless against the forces of division and the immorality of huge economic inequality. Were LBJ with us, he would surely be urging us to support the cause of women who earn 75 cents for a dollar's worth of work. He would surely be offering and fighting for marriage equality for those who seek only to love as their hearts command, and to make good education for every child a national imperative, and to narrow the yawning chasm between the fortunate few and the struggling many. From the earliest days of our democracy, those of us elected to serve have been inspired by the giants who came before us. All of us today who view this democracy as a vehicle for progress surely stand on the shoulders, or try to at least, and are indebted to Lyndon Baines Johnson. And I am truly honored to accept this award that bears the name of LBJ. Thank you, Linda, Lucy, Chuck. Great to see you again, my former colleague, Chuck Robb. And again, thanks to Jack Reed, who is an extraordinary senator and who, with John McCain, will maintain this critically important tradition of bipartisanship in national security affairs. Thank you all again. All right, we together?
And ladies and gentlemen, aren't we glad that Carl Levin was not one of those timid souls? The world is far better because of the stand he has taken for social justice, and generations of Johnsons are forever in his debt.